Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. The next hour is all about the entrepreneur, why they start businesses, how they make their businesses grow, how they overcome failures and achieve success. Your hosts are Bob Gibbons, founder of Riata Commercial Realty, a commercial real estate advisory and tenant advocacy firm, and Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. Bob and Stephen will ask probing questions to find impactful solutions that will help take your business to the next level. And now, here's Bob Gibbons and Stephen Nooner.
Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. This is your host, Bob Gibbons.
And I'm Stephen Nooner. We're off to a great start today. We've got Javier Villalobos. He's the president and co-founder of Sports Marketing Monterrey, an Inc. 5000 company, one of the fastest growing companies in the country. Congratulations.
I'm sorry, can you say Monterey again?
Monterey.
Monterey. I like
How'd
the
I
way
do?
I like the way you
Very
roll that
good,
R.
very good.
All right?
Thank you very much, guys, for
Villalobos?
inviting me.
Muy bien?
Perfect.
Perfect.
That was amazing.
All right, sorry. They're really bad. The company's co-founded with his brother in 2004, and they help brands and professional teams reach consumers in the sports industry and represent elite athletes. They're a very purposeful, passionate company. I'm really excited to talk to Javier. If you want to learn more, please visit sportsmarketing.com.mx.
Correct.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, guys, for the invitation.
Appreciate you being here. We always start off with wisdom of others. And so that's always a quote. And we're actually using a quote that you gave us today, which says, know the rules so you know how to break them. I love that quote. And you said that you think that was from Pablo Picasso, but Stephen has a different idea.
Well, all I know is I get my hair cut at Tony & Guy, and whenever I get my hair washed, it's on the wall, and it looks like they've given credit to him. So I'm not sure Pablo Picasso or Tony and Guy.
You know, those are
Tony
two
or Guy.
people.
They're two people, right? I know.
Yeah, and I bet if we go to the internet, we're going to find many other guys. I mean,
Exactly.
It's crazy how
So
these
why do
things
you like
happen.
that quote, Javier?
Well, I think that it's extremely important to know what you're doing in any aspect in life. So if you're going to go and fish, or you're going to go to the sea and you're going to swim or something, you have to be able to understand exactly what you're doing. And if it's at some point you want to be able to bend a few things, not even sometimes break, but bend a few rules, you have to fully understand where you're at so that when you do it the right way, with the right purpose, with the right goals.
And knowing the risks.
And knowing exactly where you're getting to exactly.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. It's like I love the saying of it's easier to apologize than ask permission. And it's kind of like, I like that because, you know what, action is necessary. And I would much rather have an employee, for example, take action, even if they don't know it's 100% right way to go necessarily, but I'd rather them take action than sit on their hands and not know what to do and therefore be paralyzed.
Action with knowledge.
Action with knowledge.
Correct.
Yeah, I like that.
I think it's a great quote. Obviously, we didn't do that before we came on the radio show, so I'm just saying we may have fallen a little bit short. I'm not how much homework we've done before we decided to launch this show.
Oh, I see what your point. Yeah. Because when we launched the show, we didn't know what we were doing. We've
didn't
never
know.
been radio show hosts. Now that we've done it for 2.5 years, we're so polished and perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
It looks like it.
Yes.
Well, tell us a little bit about Sports Marketing Monterrey and what you guys do.
So we started, like the company's name said, in Monterrey. I'm from Mexico about 11 years ago. So I started the company when I was in college. It's kind of funny how we started because it was my brother, who is my partner as well in the business, used to have just a regular marketing agency just out of college. One day we met this guy in a party. He's like, hey, what do you do, guys? All marketing. Well, my brother is a very famous soccer star. Would you be able to help him to do some endorsements or anything marketing? We haven't done anything. I was like, who's your brother? So he ended up being a very, very successful soccer star back then, playing in Mexico. So we were like, of course, we'll do anything. So we signed a contract and we did our first endorsement deal with this guy, and that led us to more businesses. One thing led to another, and my brother decided to close his current existing company that he just started it.
Wow.
And we started a sports marketing agency.
That's amazing. What, just out of curiosity, what was he marketing before? Was it just business marketing or
Doing
product?
marketing research for companies, if you want to find out what your customers think about you, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
horrible stuff
big,
like
I
that.
mean, I'm sure it's all useful knowledge, but you went in a totally different path.
Totally. Yeah.
So, by the way, on this show, you're welcome to say football instead of soccer. If
Oh,
you
thank you
prefer.
very much.
I was going to say, you're
wanna
not going to know how to have this conversation if you have to
misguide
keep
some people, yeah.
translating it for us gringos. That ain't going to work. So, is this the first company you've started?
Yeah, correct.
Wow. But your brother, when he had that agency, was that the first business he had started before?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So, when you jump in with both feet all in.
Exactly. And since then, of course, we have some variations, and we've been including services to the company. We started at the beginning just doing marketing campaigns for athletes. We've developed the company into just following up on the story. After a few years, one of the athletes that we were doing a lot of marketing endorsements, he came and said, "Hey, would you be able to represent me?" I'm like, "I already represent you." No, not in the marketing business, as an agent.
Wow.
We were like, and I saw another quote that's funny a couple months ago by Richard Branson saying that, hey, if your client asks you to do something that you don't know how to do it, say yes and then figure out how to do it later. So I laughed and I said, that's exactly what happened. I say, yes, I'll do it. So that's how, I'm giving you a brief of the story, but that's how we sold our first athlete from Club America, one of the top teams in Mexico City, to the MLS, to the Major League Soccer in the United States, and we sold it to the FC Dallas in 2008. So that's how I started traveling a lot to Dallas and fell in love with this beautiful city and stay here.
Interesting. So when you first started, your brother and you had this opportunity with this endorsement with the famous athlete, how did you know what to even do with him? How did you know what the right amount of money to charge for something like that was?
So at the beginning, and this is a rookie start, of course, you made a lot of mistakes as an entrepreneur, and I wish we had a mentor. That is something that when a kid or an entrepreneur, whoever you are, doesn't matter your age, you find a mentor is one of the greatest things you can do, because you're going to learn faster and you're going to save a lot of mistakes. In our case, following up to your question, we didn't have a clue. So what we did is to try to study it. We did, of course, some courses overseas and try to learn it. But again, what school is going to teach you is not necessarily what is going to happen in the real life.
Yeah.
So we ended up just trying to figure it out by ourselves at the beginning, and just by learning by mistakes. And okay, you learn that you left a lot of money on the table. Sometimes if you're smart enough, you won't do that same mistake again. Right now, we develop everything. Now we have a process into knowing how much an endorsement costs, because we have a huge track record of doing these things.
So how do you know, other than your own data showing you what a particular star is worth, is there any other source of information where you can go and say, all right, a star at this level in this country for this kind of client or product is worth X?
Well, of course, you have a benchmark. If you look around and say, okay, I have this new athlete coming up, and I think is going to be the next star, but it's not quite there yet, and you already know that other athletes are making certain amount of money per deal, so you have those track records. You can do a benchmark and figure it out where your athlete is in comparison to the other athletes, and then create kind of a measure there.
But if I can stop you for a second, that when you say that benchmark, is that benchmark only within your own organization, or is there some other place where you? So there's your competitors.
Yeah,
Public info.
Sometimes there's public info, and sometimes you're not able to find it. So it's a wild guess sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a few softwares out there right now that they can provide some useful information in related to endorsement, how much thing costs,
That's niche.
ROI and everything.
Yeah.
But again, it's not very well developed.
So, residential real estate agents
and
have...
10 years ago, it didn't exist, any of that.
Yeah, I mean, residential realtors have the multiple listing service, but there's no such thing for your industry.
Exactly.
So Javier, like real serious question here. So what in that software would Bob Gibbons bring?
I do not want to know the answer to that. I owe them money.
Here's your water back.
Let's skip the next question.
Interesting. All right, so you're representing elite athletes for endorsement purposes. That's sort of where your business starts. So you get that one client, and your brother ditches his old company and starts going with this on one client. He did that all on one client, or did he wait until he had several?
Of course, it happened over a year. He used to own, I used to help him, but again, he started that marketing agency. He used to own a lot of billboards and on food courts on all malls. He used to put advertising on big screens. So he sold all that business when he realized it was becoming a trend that our current clients, they were asking more stuff related to sports. It started with an endorsement and then became 2, 3, 4 athletes. And then the same client was like, hey, do you do stuff outside of the stadiums? Can you help me with the brand activation? What if we approach this soccer team to do? And it started to ramp up, and it was like a snowball. So at some point we said, okay, there's a huge opportunity here, and we're not even putting any effort. What would happen if we dedicate our 100% of our time to a sports marketing agency? So that's when we made the decision. I think it happened in about a year when we started our first deal.
Were there other sports marketing agencies in Mexico at the time?
Yes, but to be honest, that's one of the reasons that we came here, because just like in Mexico or in a lot of countries in South America, sports marketing, it's in diapers. So, and especially, soccer is the biggest sport in Mexico. So if you want to be in sports marketing, you should do soccer. And again, I'm saying in a very ironic way as well, because you can do many other things in sports marketing, but everything is just focused on one thing. So we came here, and again, we thought that we were going to do more transactions with athletes, stuff like that, until we realized that our niche here was to help companies to engage the market that we understand and is our nature. So it's the Hispanic market. So right now we help brands to do that.
All right, we'll be right back after this break on 1190 AM.
Stick around.
Hi, this is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty. If your office lease is going to be expiring in the next year or two, the one thing I would tell you definitely do not want to do is exercise a renewal option. Now, that may sound a little nuts. When you negotiate for that renewal option, why wouldn't you actually want to use it? Well, the reason is because while you want to have one as a reservation for your space so the landlord can't lease the space out from under you, that option may not actually work the way you want it to now. It may have made sense 5 years ago, but it doesn't today. The only thing that changes when you exercise a renewal option are the expiration date and the rent. But you may want to do other things like have another option to renew, have an option to terminate or expand. You may want to be able to expand now or have a new base year for your operating expenses. There's all kinds of things that need to be considered. So we recommend that you renegotiate, not renew. For more information, contact me, Bob Gibbons, at texastenantrep.com. That's texastenantrep.com. Welcome back to The Next Level. We're here with Javier Villalobos of Sports Marketing Monterrey. Yeah, I knew that, Stephen. You don't need to correct me. And you can go to sportsmarketing.com.mx.
I'm just trying to help you, man. Trying to get you more than a bottle of water for your radio show host. Hey, so something that really just stuck out to me right at the end that I wanted to follow up on is this. So that was really fascinating what you shared. That so you came to the U.S. with kind of an idea in mind, and then you got here, and then so your business went from marketing to athlete marketing, then you come here to the U.S., and then it just totally changed again. So how did you come to that realization that you're going to start changing your shift your focus yet again?
That's an interesting question. So it took us actually a couple of years, because when you have something in your mind and you believe that that's the key factor that's going to take you to the next level, you actually stop watching start realizing other opportunities that you have in front of you. It took us 2 years, 2 hard years. We came here in 28. So it was exactly when a lot of companies there was kind of a recession in the country. Everybody said to us, wow, you came in the wrong year, my friend. You're going to have a tough time. And we did. But again, we shifted into, we realized that we were going to do something a little bit different if you hear your current clients and if you start paying attention to what people need, and what they needed is, okay, we saw a lot of companies that instead of understanding the market, I'm talking the Hispanic market, they just translate the phrase or the idea or the message. And sometimes when I was reading, I was like, okay, this sounds horrible. Who translated this? It's not just about translating. It's about understanding the culture, the traditions, and the food, and the humor as well, and many other things, the religion or many other stuff. So when we started hearing those signs and we started listening to those signs, we say, okay, we need to help these companies that they're doing a terrible job at reaching the Hispanic market, especially when we found out that there's 55 million Hispanic people in the United States. It became, and we know how to approach them. It's something that we've done since the beginning, and through sports, through passion. Sports, one way or another, and doesn't matter in which country you're going to be. Sports is one way to attract a lot of consumers, how to reach them, and you know what? To be able to use that passion and to be able. That's why a lot of brands wants to connect with them.
What you were saying a second ago about understanding in the translation, not just the words but the meaning, is so important. It reminds me of the classic story was when Chevrolet had the Nova in here in the United States, and they took it to Mexico and other countries. And of course, what does Nova mean in Spanish? Doesn't go.
Yeah.
And so you name a car, it's not going to go. What a dumb thing. So that's such a classic thing, and how much money they must have lost on that because they didn't understand the cultural nuances or even the language, apparently. It's really incredible. So when you do that, you really have to craft things very carefully and very differently, I would think, even in the same country. What you might do for the English-speaking market is going to be very different than how you do things for the Spanish-speaking market.
Of course.
Yes?
Yes.
But even in the Spanish-speaking market, you have so many different countries of origin, and what may make sense in Mexico may not make sense in Argentina or Peru.
That's correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that?
Well, it's a big challenge, and there's no formula for it, to be honest, and nobody has that formula. Sometimes I've seen even McDonald's targeting, and they put a special spot only for Colombian people. And they started targeting specific markets, specific countries like that in the United States. So you've seen those examples. Many of the companies, what they do, they just target, they have to standardize processes. If not, it's going to cost too much out of your budget. Sometimes you just focus on Mexicans, especially because 60% out of the 55 million are coming from one way or another from Mexico. It's either second generation, third generation, or their parents are Mexicans. So it's a little bit easier to do it that way because it's a broader market. But again, there's not a formula to put everybody in one bucket and say, hey, this is what works for everybody.
You can't do it, right? It's no matter what. The stereotypes, there's always problems with them, right? If you look at the way you'd market to Texans versus California or New York, it's the United States, it's the same thing.
Exactly.
Right? When I go to Missouri, the Chevy commercials talk about, best trucks, and they have like Missouri scenery, and in Texas they have like horns and hats,
Exactly. So it was interesting to see, for example, you were mentioning an example of Chevy. When, the campaign Got Milk, right? It was extremely famous. When they tried to do a Spanish version, it sounded like you were lactating.
Oh, no.
It was so funny. It was one of the, and you know, those guys spend a lot of money on those commercials.
Sure.
So much.
So they lost a lot of money because they weren't able, they just translated it. They had a poor job, a poor agency doing that job for them. So
Well, now, whenever you get to the big agencies in the U.S., do they not have? Well, I'll back up. I know that some of them have divisions that are specifically targeting the Hispanic market.
correct.
But it seems like they ought to be hiring a subcontractor, if nothing else, which is a truly Hispanic-owned and operated sub-agency, if you will. But do they really do that?
They do. I mean, sometimes, and it depends. In this particular case of Got Milk campaign, they just said, okay, we just need to translate one phrase. We don't need an agency.
How hard can that be?
Right.
Exactly. How hard can that be? They probably just hire a translator or somebody.
Put it in Google.
Exactly. Put it in Google Translator, and surprise. So all the other big companies, I mean, of course, they hire marketing agencies or Hispanic marketing agencies. But again, sometimes you hire a marketing agency that is, and that the guy probably doing the campaign is a second or third generation that doesn't even sometimes speak Spanish anymore, because that happens. And they're not able to perform a very well job to the market that they would like to be spoken of in Spanish.
Yeah.
Or sometimes in both languages. Sometimes in our marketing campaigns, we do a kind of Spanglish. It looks horrible and I hate it, but that's what works.
One thing that you mentioned in the pre-interview materials that I found very interesting is you made a statement that the Hispanic market uses mobile or consumes mobile information at a far higher percentage than any other ethnic group.
Yeah, and that's a proven fact. In the United States, they're the heaviest users of mobile, either purchasing stuff or being online on Facebook or Instagram, whatever. So they've been measuring that year after year. The Hispanic market has been on the top every year.
What do you think? I mean, do you know any idea what causes that trend? I mean, like, where is it?
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Nobody exactly knows. If I have to guess, I'd say that the Hispanic market, we've been trying to, or probably it's easier to get an access with an iPhone, to have an iPhone, than to have a laptop.
Mm-hmm.
So you've seen a lot of even construction workers.
Yeah.
They probably don't go home and have an Apple and do some work over
Yeah.
there, but they have an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
iPhone is everywhere. It
Well,
doesn't
it
matter
already
how
has
much money you make.
Has your internet built into it, right? You don't have to have a Wi-Fi
Exactly.
hotspot at home or whatever. So, I mean, I don't know if that's the reason, but certainly is a lot more streamlined than when you're doing everything off the phone.
Yes, exactly.
But we're seeing that regardless of ethnic group based on age as well. I mean, so that, my kids, for example, you do far more things on their mobile phone than I do. I still like going to my computer and doing things. I mean, if I'm going to buy my airline tickets, it's easier for me to do that from my computer than
We're
from my
getting
phone.
old, right?
Do you
Well-
still put in your floppy disk and
Yeah, but it's the 5 1/4
boot it up?
size.
That's how you feel comfortable. Keep doing it.
All right. So when you come to the U.S., when you start your business, you're focused on representing these elite athletes for endorsements. Then you move into starting to represent them. Then you start moving into helping companies figure out how to spend their marketing dollars to the Hispanic market through sports marketing. Your mindset must have had to shift quite a bit from one of those to the next, because representing an individual is very different than representing a Johnson & Johnson, for example.
Correct.
So how do you make that shift, or do you have different divisions that handle that to keep them sort of isolated from each other?
Great question. I think that the best answer, because I've done it all, every part of the business that I've described to you, between my partner and I, we've done it one way or another. But there's a certain point that you cannot wear so many hats, because you're not going to be able to grow more, and you need to be able to have a great, successful team around you to be able to grow. And that's how, if you look at other successful billionaires, that's how they do. They have the vision and the great ideas, and have a great team to be able to make it happen. They're not by themselves. So we have to, we started doing that. We started to realizing that we need a great team behind us. And that's how you start building the company, started putting people into the company. That's actually what makes a company great.
Now, you said other great billionaires. So you're a billionaire?
No, thank
No?
you.
Wait a minute.
No, but you have to have that mindset, right?
You could be our
Law of
first.
attraction.
So you have 27 team members now, 3 offices?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me about that, because this is your first business. You guys started young. You're in a new culture. Like, how do you go about like identifying? You didn't have mentors, or maybe you did at this point. How do you start identifying who are the people we need to have? Who are those great people, and how do you attract them?
So I did not have a mentor. I think that the closest to a mentor that I had, it was my brother. He's way older than me. He's probably gonna laugh whenever he hears that comment.
He didn't look like it on the
Yes.
the website.
And so, but I mean, in order to hire great people, and I mean, of course, when you talk with other entrepreneurs, we always have that question. I think that there's not a right answer, but of course, you have to be able to define your beliefs and the purpose of your company, and based on that, you're able to find the right people that share that with you.
Let's pick this up on the other side. We got to take a break. We're on 1190 AM.
Hi, my name is Fern, and I've been an empowered team member at Alkali for over 5 years. I first learned about Alkali through an online job board and was intrigued to learn that Alkali was a Dave Ramsey endorsed local provider. But what captivated me was Alkali's mission statement, which is closely aligned with my own beliefs. So what's kept me at Alkali for over 5 years? First, Alkali's 5 core values match my own. Second, I've been empowered to use my unique abilities to impact our community, our clients, and Alkali. If you'd like to learn more about becoming an empowered Alkali team member, visit our website, alkaliservices.com. That's ALKALI services.com.
Welcome back to The Next Level on 1190 AM.
So Javier, right before we left, we were talking about people and how do you attract people, and you said, having a purpose for your business really helps. So what is the purpose for your business? Like, what are you guys passionate about?
So basically, and that's a great topic to talk about. Our purpose of our business is basically to be able, with whatever you do, in this case is sports that we do, be able to transmit and create great experiences to the fans. So every time, and we have so many type of clients, we have the brand that sponsor our events, we have the teams, of course, that we're bringing to, at some level to United States with these events that we do, and we have the final consumer, which is the fan. But again, at the end of the day, you have to be, everybody in the piece have to be able to have a great experience. So I'm not selling in our company a ticket to go to the stadium. I'm selling an experience to go to the stadium. So if you go to the stadium as a consumer, you go to see the Cowboys, and you had a horrible time, and probably the screen didn't work out, and you weren't able to have a good time, you're not going to be able to come back to that same stadium. But if you just step into the stadium and you see, like, wow, this is like a mall, this is an amazing stadium, and you sit down and the view is great, and you sit down and there's people are going crazy for the Cowboys or whichever team you cheer up for, and you have a great, amazing experience, or you're able to go down the field or to meet the players or something like that, that's what we provide. It's not just about selling a ticket or selling a sponsorship. It's about having an amazing experience and be able to communicate and bring joy to people. So that's how you become successful in what we're doing. If you're able to transmit that, if you're able to say, you know what, this is my purpose, and my purpose is to be able to bring joy to you, you're in the right track.
I love that because, with our kids, and my kids are grown. My kids are 24 and 28. I don't need any more stuff. So at Christmas or birthdays or whatever, we say to the kids, you know what? We want experiences with you. We want to spend time with you and have experiences with you. We don't want more stuff. And so when you're creating those kind of experiences for families, for business situations, whatever, those are what people really remember. I'm not going to remember next year what somebody gave me as far as an item.
Correct.
But I'm going to remember if I've spent time with them and had that experience you're talking about. I love that as a purpose. That's really cool.
So, and I do too, but how does that, so when you're looking for a candidate, right, you guys are growing, Are people just attracted to you? Like, I don't know your industry well enough. So, like, are you known? And so now you just have people that are, like, passionate about what you're passionate about and want to do that? Or are you saying, hey, we need X set of skill set. We're putting out a resume, and then we got to filter whether or not this person has it? Or is it both?
It's both, actually. You always have to filter. I mean, I mean, the biggest companies in the world, like even Microsoft or Apple or whatever, they have to filter people.
Sure.
Because probably millions of people apply every day to work for those companies. It's not our case in our company, but again, a lot of the things that help to be like an advertising ad was to be in Inc. 500 and Inc. 5000 2 years in a row.
Oh, congrats.
So a lot of people probably just go, okay, which companies are growing and are cool, and they go one by one probably, even to try to sell something or try to sell themselves into working to those companies that are growing. So we get a lot of people that apply because they saw us on that list.
That's cool.
But again, you have to be able to have a good profile of the candidates that you want in your company. Especially, you don't have to like soccer, you don't have to like sports necessarily, but you have to share the passion that we want to transmit one way or another. It's hard when the person says, you know what, I don't like sports. Wow. That's a red flag for us. But again, we don't turn them down. We have to figure out what drives you, where's your passion at. And if we can share it in one way or another, then we're a good fit.
So how do you do that, though? I mean, how do you get through what somebody's telling you because it's what they think you want to hear versus what they really believe?
Well, it's hard. I mean, sometimes we have a few strategies for that, and sometimes I'm not the only one who is going to talk. I mean, I have it's not a big company. We have a few employees, so I like to talk with everybody, and sometimes I let my staff to actually talk with that candidate. And I even sometimes invite them to, hey, let's have a kind of a tryout. Come to the office, see the office, and work. We're going to give you a few responsibilities. So, and then I get the feedback from everybody about that person. And if it's a good mixture of, especially the culture that we have in the office, then it's a good fit.
That's interesting because it's a connection point, right? You want to create experiences with that type of interview. It's almost like an audition.
Yes.
Right? So you're auditioning.
Cast members.
Yeah,
Kinda
cast members.
Well,
to help
it's
create the
Disney. I
experience.
mean,
Yeah.
everybody that works for Disney is a cast member. They're not an employee,
Exactly.
not an associate. You know, when it comes to interviewing, I would tell you that one of the most successful ones I've seen, the companies that has a process, is actually Stephen's company, Alkali Services, because they're constantly interviewing. Even if they don't have an opening, they're constantly interviewing. But they have to get through how many interviews?
Many, I mean, to us, many. I mean,
Many,
we might
6
go
or
through,
7?
We might go through. Well, no, we've actually essentialized that. We basically just went through a process where we figured out what is really moving the needle in the hiring, and so we've culled that down.
Okay.
But it's super. We tell people before they even go into the interview process that you're going to think we're a little weird. It's super high octane because we don't want to waste your time. But it's an unusual interview for most people.
And you don't actually meet the candidate until the very last.
That's because I like everybody. So that's actually for the good of the company. I used to interview and I thought everyone was great and everyone shared my passion.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh yeah, I love this. This is great. We help people. Da, da, da. And they'd be like, no, they're dead. I'm like, no, they were so fired up. No, they weren't excited.
I actually think that's cool that you had that awareness that you liked everybody and you were so passionate about the company that you sort of projected that on them and therefore weren't the best person to sort of filter and weed out people early on. And, you know, only at the last, you know, rubber stamp, so to speak, do you come in. So I think that's cool.
Well,
Interesting.
One thing, you know, that I was kind of curious about is like, so in a business like yours, what is the greatest challenge for you guys? You have a lot of success right now. I mean, 2 years you have a lot of momentum.
I think that the greatest challenge right now for us is probably ourselves, because to keep up with the rapid growth that we've been having, it's not easy. At a certain point, you hit a certain cyclical moment in your business that you're not going to be able to grow 3 figures every year, and then it's time to be 2 figures. And now when you said, okay, it's 60% every year, wow, that's a tremendous growth. But when there's bigger companies, when they say, okay, I'm growing 5%, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, it's millions and millions or hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
Right now, we haven't hit that yet, that particular moment. So we have to take advantage of that. So we sit down every day and try to figure out what's next, what's our next idea, because every year we implement something new. That's why we're being able to keep up with that growth. Right now we're doing, we started representing a few entire teams in Mexico, professional soccer teams, instead of just athletes. And we started bringing those teams to the United States to do exhibition games. So we're putting around 250,000 people in stadiums in the United States only every year.
250,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
that's how we create the experiences, to meet the players, to go down the field. So we create so many great activities.
But you're only doing that in the United States.
Exactly.
Why not in Mexico?
That's when we were going to start.
It's your next big idea.
Yeah. So we're going to start expanding to as well European clubs. So we're going to integrate European clubs with, I mean, this is not like we're inventing something new. I mean, this is something that is being happening already in the United States, but we want to start doing it in other countries as well, especially Mexico, and we're going to continue doing it here.
So you're doing these new things, and you're adding every year. Is there anything that you've just let go, other than your brother's first company? Is there anything that, like, when you started the company, that was like a really big deal that you just now it's not worth it?
Yes. For me in particular, I'm not. I mean, my brother loves that part of that representation of athletes, and we used to represent a lot now, but nowadays it's not a lot. It's more of a type of a consulting thing in which I go to you and you're like, hey, what do you need? And you say, you know what, I need somebody that can score goals, this position, blah, blah. And I go outside and find it for you. Maybe what I have in my roster is not necessarily what you need. So that's more of a consulting, so you don't have a lot of inventory, a lot of people there sitting waiting for a job, talking about the athletes. And I don't like it so much. So I stopped doing that.
So that's really being more of a scout.
Yes.
Because you're being hired by the team, not by the individual.
Well, yes and no, of course. But you have to be able to have a lot of scouts in the area, because I don't do the scouting. So I just get the right people on my table, and I pick the right ones, and then I say, okay, this is the right fit for this type of club, for this type of position, and the type of mentality. And you have to be able to actually interview the player before you even offer it. Because if you just talk with the agent or their agent and say, yeah,
They're amazing
for the right money,
Yeah.
and then you put the right money and say, no, you know what, he doesn't like the country, he doesn't like that city, or it's not big enough for him, or yeah, it can happen. Imagine that you live in Barcelona one day, or in Valencia, or in whatever, in Paris, and then it's not the money what drives you sometimes.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I don't want to take my kid out of this amazing school and go to this another country. It doesn't matter if it's U.S., Mexico, or whatever. I mean, it can be a driver.
Yeah, I mean, if you're making $8 million a year, what's another million if you're having to go live in a place you don't want to be?
Exactly.
Interesting. So when you guys came to the U.S., that must have created a whole nother range of competitors. Because, you said there weren't really very many competitive companies in Mexico. But when you came to the U.S., I have to imagine that there were a ton of them that you were now competing with. Is that true, or was your niche such that you didn't really have competition because they didn't really represent the same kind of clients that you did?
Actually, we did not have so many competitors at the beginning. And it's funny because when we started 5 years ago to do these sporting events, which there were already a few players in the market that were doing it not in the right way. And they were just like hiring an artist to go and sing. We were able to do it in a better way.
Interesting. All right, well, let's pick that up when we come back from the break. This is The Next Level on 1190 AM.
Hi, I'm Micah.
And I'm Tri.
We're the owners of Low Voltage Solutions.
And based on the last hour with Bob and Steve, I feel much better about our employees.
Welcome back to The Next Level on 1190 AM. We're here with our guest, Javier Villalobos of Sports Marketing Monterrey, and you can find out more about his company at sportsmarketing.com.mx.
So let's talk about, so you're doing events, you're doing whole teams now. I mean, you're leaving certain things behind, and now you're talking about expanding. What's the glue or the essence of all that holds it together for you in regards to like what you're up to and where you're going? As I mean, everything in marketing seems to be changing right now.
So basically, I mean, the motto is to be able to help you to connect on a deep and meaningful way with the Hispanic market. So either if you sell cans, Pepsis, or if you sell insurance or a phone or whatever, furniture, you want to be able to connect with that market. A vehicle to do it is the games that we do, and we put a lot of people in stadiums around the country, and that's one vehicle. But there's so many, so that's one of the properties that we've been growing every year, so we'll continue to do it, but that's not the only thing we do. I focus a lot on that because 250,000 people in stadiums around the country is quite a good number.
It's a lot of impressions.
Especially because, it's a lot of impressions, especially because everything is broadcasted as well on TV. So you have ESPN in 21 countries, US, Mexico, and all over Latin America. So there's a great exposure right there. So it's our biggest property. It's our biggest asset that we've been growing every year, putting more events, more people into stadiums, better teams.
How many events will you do this year?
We started with one event in 2013, and now we're doing 10 events a year.
Wow. So roughly 25,000 people per event.
Around that, yes.
Interesting.
Go ahead.
Well, so whenever you're doing these events, so you're negotiating with the teams to come do the event. You're negotiating with the stadiums. You're negotiating with the broadcasting rights.
Correct.
I got to believe there's an internet aspect to that. I mean, there's so many different aspects of that. How much of that do you handle yourself versus having to partner with other service providers of various sorts?
Well, we do everything in-house. So we sell the tickets. We even have a software in certain stadiums. It's our own, instead of Ticketmaster, it's our own ticket company. Wow. So that's another, we developed that probably 2 years ago. That in that way, you keep the database of the fans and everything, their information. Next event, you just click a button and everybody knows about your event.
That's huge.
That is.
So yeah, I mean, we do everything in-house. Sell the tickets, the sponsorships, the marketing campaigns on TV, radio. We do everything in-house.
Seems like to do all that with 27 people, and 27 people in 3 different cities. I mean, do the people that are doing those events only occupy or reside here in the U.S. in your Dallas office, or are they also coming from the other 2 offices?
Just the people here in Dallas. So everything that we do in the United States is done with my staff in Dallas. Maybe if I need something like a TV production, it's cheaper to do it in Mexico and with great quality. So our radio spots and TV, we do it in Mexico, but that's it. Our graphic designers, if we need something with the webpage, stuff like that. But everything related to the events, we do it here in the United States.
So we've talked about some of the big brands and some of the huge organizations that you guys, do a lot of work for. What about smaller companies? Do you guys serve? I mean, is there a certain point where it makes sense to engage a company like yours?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I mean, of course, we have since we started very small clients, medium size, and big clients like the size of even a Coors Light or MoneyGram or AT&T, I mean, huge brands. But again, we have all type of packages and all type of ways to help any type of business, even if it's very small or too big.
So if Steven and his insurance company wants to get into the Hispanic market in a big way, that's something you can help him figure out a strategy to do that.
Of course. I mean, it depends if we're a sports marketing agency.
Sure.
So as a friend, I will help you in a way to figure it out and what guidance to give you. But if somebody's listening and say, hey, you know what? I mean, I just want to reach the Hispanic market. I don't care if it's sports or any other way, just help me. So at the end of the day, you want to sell, then maybe yes. I mean, of course, we can help. We're a sports marketing agency. Everything that we're going to do is going to be through molding that passion that the Hispanics have for a certain particular sport and be able to connect you with them and be able to sell whatever you're selling.
What kind of is there like a minimum spend that somebody would need to commit to be sort of worth your while? I mean, do they need to spend $25,000 a year or $250,000 a year?
To be honest, it depends. I mean, for consulting is one thing. If they say, you know what, I want to be in one of your events and figure it out, how can I connect with 20,000 people in a stadium? We have packages extremely cheap that can go from 5,000 to up to sky is the limit.
Wow.
So, what would you say, like, kind of looking back over your history? I mean, again, you guys have a lot of growth, a lot of success. What would you say has been the biggest breakdown that maybe has turned into a breakthrough for you?
I think it was the events. For us, a few years ago, when we did our first event in 2013, we did it here in Dallas. It was extremely successful. And then we realized that we were sitting on a gold mine, this vehicle of doing these events, and to be able to put in the same picture the sponsors, big brands, the fans, and the teams that we also represent, plus the media, ESPN and Fox Sports and all these companies in the same vehicle. That's when we say, okay, this is an amazing vehicle to start to connect with the Hispanic market and get more clients. But if I can think about the most recent one, I will say that in 2017, we did our biggest event here in Dallas as well, even if we are in nationwide. But again, we have great companies. There's great companies here, and we have a lot of friends. We put around 25,000 people in the stadium, but it was the most lucrative event that we've done. So for us, that was one of the biggest success last year.
One of the things you mentioned in your pre-interview information that I saw come up several times was Salesforce, that you were, I guess, maybe just starting to implement that or had just done so, and it's really a game changer for you. And I think you even said that you wish you'd have done it a lot earlier. Why is that? How are you guys using that?
A long time ago, we were very focused on how to grow the business, and we were just misguided into a lot of operational and the everyday operational stuff that you forget about certain things. And for us was sales, to be able to monetize a lot of the inventory that we have for these particular events, because you can do a lot of things that sometimes you're not doing well. And we have a lot of opportunities right there. So for me, is to be able to sell what we have, which is the packages, the sponsorships. We have great brands sponsoring. We even had Starbucks over there and Burger King, and we have so nationwide brands. But again, there's a lot of space for even smaller companies as well. That sometimes they say, you know what, they see a lot of multinational brands next to each other and say, this probably costs too much. And it doesn't. There's all kinds of levels to be able to do it. For me, is to create a great sales department, which I think we can maximize that what we have right now and be able to ramp up our sales.
So when you were referring to Salesforce, you were talking about your Salesforce, not the software Salesforce.
Yeah.
Good.
Not the CRM.
I was wondering where you got that. I did not get that out of his packet.
Did you? Okay, I did. I must have been looking at that
We
wrong.
must need to buy some Salesforce software.
It was late.
Hey, you've mentioned it several times in the interview, the idea of mentorship and how it hurts you in the beginning, maybe not having mentors. Are you doing anything for mentorship now, or I mean, has that changed for you guys?
So with actually, I approached some EO members and I actually told them that I was in need of a mentor to be able to take my business to the next level. I'm always trying to find new ways to challenge myself and to learn as well. I cannot pretend that I know everything. So, and I got some great answers and some great leads. So yes, I'm putting some effort into
it. And for those of you listening to, I know Javier, we're in an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization together, and in a lot of ways, we do, maybe as a leading question, I think are all mentoring each other all the time, but you're actually seeking out some specific mentorship within EO.
Yes,
So
and I also have another program that I'm creating as we speak. I'm thinking it's going to take me probably a year to implement it, but to be able to mentor kids or in some way. So I remember when I was 17 with a few ideas that I didn't know where to start. I think there's a lot of kids like that, if you give them the right mentorship, they can become the next. They can have the next big idea or the multi-million-dollar idea. You can
That's
help
awesome.
them.
What's one thing in your business that you need to stop doing to be more effective?
Probably, I mean, I think too much before acting. Sometimes you need to act quickly, and I'm one of those persons that I like to sit down and actually map my scenarios and stuff like that. And sometimes you just need to act quickly and be able to. Sometimes the opportunity knocks very quickly to your door.
Is that something that you and your brother share, or is one of you guys usually the quick start and the other one's more of the? I mean, do you guys have a balance each other, or are you similar?
We balance each other. We're not similar. He's more like that. He's more of a quick thinker and quick acting. I'm more like I like to think things very quietly, and it takes me too much time to do that. That's probably one of the things that I need to start doing so quick. Have you seen the 5-second rule book? Have you read it?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
That's he recommended me to read that book or to listen it to in audiobooks.
Your brother recommended
Yeah.
it? I haven't seen
5-second
that. I
rule.
know about the 5-second rule, but that's, dropping something on the floor and then picking it up and eating it. So I imagine this is a little different. Well, Javier, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank
We've
you,
really
Javier.
enjoyed your insights and all the success you've had. Best of luck to you in the future. For our listeners, please go to sportsmarketing.com.mx to learn more about his company. And if you want to learn more about the show, go to nextlevelshow.com, or you can find us on podcast at The Next Level Show.
Help spread the word. Have
See
a
you
great
next
week.
week.
Thank you, guys.